record to the cloud. Do you know if you have your Zoom set up? I'm sorry, Nick, we don't normally record on Zoom, so this is like a little bit new, but do you know if you have your settings to record each person individually or everybody together?
I have
I
no
don't,
idea, Lindsay.
to be honest.
Well,
Let me go.
it would be a setting in yours, Mom.
I'm gonna look right now. How do I do that? Do you know where it is?
Yes, so it's under personal and then settings.
Okay.
You there?
I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, and then it says check the box next to record a separate audio file for each participant.
Let's see.
Okay, it's not a big deal if not. We'll just
I'm
have to make
sorry.
sure we're quiet when other people are talking.
I'll
not a
do my
huge deal.
best. I suck
Okay.
at that, but I'll do my best.
I do too. It's okay. I think it'll be fine. One episode won't kill it.
Cool. All right. I don't know. We don't ever use this. So, hey, man, this sounds like a really fun little test. Are you up for it?
I'm always the
Okay.
guinea pig for stuff, so that's fine.
It says recording, so I think we're recording, right, Mom?
Yeah,
All right.
we are.
Okay, so Nick, before we actually start talking, I wanted to give you a little heads up on where we're thinking the episode's going to go. So I know you said NIL partnerships on your things you would like to talk about. I assume that means that you use NIL partnerships for marketing.
Yeah, I've set some up and I've used them for marketing for the agency.
Okay, cool. So I think that would be incredibly interesting to talk about. So we'll probably start with that. We'll just say that we know you leverage NIL partnerships. I haven't heard of an agency doing that before, and kind of let you chat about that.
Sure.
And then I want to talk about just your overall marketing. Are kind of in the generation, like the Aaron Gordon generation, where everybody is doing a lot of highlighting their personal brand. So talking about how that directly impacts your agency, and then kind of wrapping up talking about how marketing leads into your acquisition strategy.
Sure.
That all sound good?
Nick,
Yeah,
I
that
don't know
sounds
what
good to me.
NIL is. I have no idea what NIL is. Is that bad?
No,
What
that's
you're talking
okay.
about?
So name, image, and likeness. So getting college athletes, now they are able to leverage that and you can actually use them in your marketing. So for local marketing, being able to go and tap a college athlete and have them in your marketing, that's what we've been doing. And there's some agents that have tried, they've reached out and tried to learn and all that. And so happy to share stuff about it.
Perfect.
So I think you guys should use the acronym, and I'm going to look stupid and ask that question because I bet you I'm not the only person in the world that doesn't know what the hell that means.
That's
All right,
totally
definitely.
fine.
Let's do this. I'm okay looking stupid 90% of the time.
Me too. All right, let's do it. Hey, Mom, how's it going?
I'm doing really well, Lindsay. We have a big, big weekend planned. I'm headed your way.
You're
But
headed
yeah,
my
I'm
way.
super excited. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going wedding dress shopping. So it'll be an incredibly fun weekend. Really looking forward to it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are you
But
getting married, I assume?
I am getting married. Yes, I just got engaged. Wrong hand to flick my eye with right when I say that. But yeah, we're getting married next June. So this will be my
Congratulations.
first time trying on wedding dresses.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
My wife and I got married in December of this past year, so I'm fresh as well.
Fresh. Well, do you have any big tips?
Yeah, I think with the wedding especially, there's a lot of things that you're going to stress about. Worry about the music and worry about you. Everything else, it doesn't matter. Make sure you're happy, your husband's going to be happy, and the music is good.
There you go. I think one of the things that we've been thinking about is so we have this place that we like to go for Sunday brunch that is right on the water, and it's kind of a hip cool spot here in Charleston. And the guy's name is Jax on the sax, and he DJs and he plays the saxophone while he does it. So I have a friend who goes to a lot of weddings. She's a wedding photographer. And I sent it to her and I was like, okay, would this be weird or would this be really cool? And she's like, no, that would be insanely cool. You have to do it now that you've mentioned it. So now that I've put it on a public platform, I've gotta put it out now I have to do it. So
Yeah, so Jax with the sax, you just got a huge promo here.
yeah, Jax with the sax down in Charleston, South Carolina.
So give Lindsay a discount.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, give Lindsay's mom a discount, please. Please, God,
Well, I'm super
Nick,
pumped to dive in. We've got Nick Vitali with us today from All About Insurance. Is that the correct name of your agency? Above all insurance?
All about insurance.
All about insurance. Fun name. I think that's an incredibly probably good. You probably get like people searching up like teach me all about insurance and you guys pop up. Do you guys have that a lot?
You know, it's funny. We do have that. The reason we came up with the name actually goes back to the Yellow Pages. So back in the day when I was a kid, we did all of our marketing in the Yellow Pages and in the phone book. And so whenever you looked up all about insurance, AA put us in the front on the first page of
Mm.
insurance anytime anybody went looking for insurance. So we could take out a full page ad and have that very first slot. So it was strategic.
Yeah.
I
So I
love
have
that.
to ask, hang on a second, Lindsay. I have to ask this because I'm allowed to. Do you remember when there were phone books? Honestly, do you truly remember when phone books were delivered and we actually utilized them, Lindsay? I got to know.
Oh, me? No.
Yeah.
No. I remember that there used to be like a school directory that like our elementary school, everybody would put their home phone numbers and I would use that to call people from school. But like a Yellow Pages book, no, I don't remember those days.
Somebody's still out there that's dropping them on doorsteps somewhere at apartment complexes, I'm sure.
Oh my
For sure,
goodness.
for sure. But I knew that when you said that, I mean, honestly, I remember phone books because when I was a kid, that's what I used to have to sit on so I could actually reach the table. You move when you weren't in a high chair, you actually sat on the phone book. And yeah, I was really happy that I didn't fall off of it or anything like that. But, you know, that was a thing, Lindsay. Everybody looked in the phone book for numbers. Wasn't this crazy
Interesting.
thing called the internet? You know, crazy.
Well, Nick, give
So
us a little bit of
that's how we got our
background.
name.
Yeah. Well, give us a little bit of background on your agency overall, how you found insurance and your journey.
Sure. So I'm a second generation insurance agent. My dad started the agency back in 1993 in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So that's right where the Tar Heels play. My dad started the agency out of a need, and I've talked about this a few times before, but I'll be brief. He had a really bad back injury, and that was kind of led to a conversation with the claims adjuster when he was talking about the injury with the workers' comp claim, and he said, hey, you're going to need a desk job. And my dad kind of took that as, okay, well, what do you do? And that turned into a conversation around getting into insurance. So he had that issue back in 91, and by 93
Hmm.
he had started a scratch agency with Nationwide. That agency has grown from one scratch agency that was in a mall to 10 locations, 40,000 clients, and about 40 people that work for us. So I grew up in that. That's like what I kind of was born into as a young kid. My dad was, bringing home insurance stuff, talking about a claim or talking about a crazy customer that came in that day because back then he was, really still in the agency. Now he has taken himself out of the agency, and so the brand All About Insurance, that's the agency. It's not Mark Vitali Insurance, which is how we
Mm.
started out. And that's just an aside for anyone that's listening. I know other people have talked about this, but when you go to build your agency, eventually you want to build the brand of your agency, not to be you, the agent, but to be the actual agency. So when they call in, they're not calling to talk to Nick or talk to Lindsay. They're calling to just talk to somebody that's an agent or an advisor at your insurance agency. So that's really one of the reasons we changed our name back then, was because my dad didn't want to be the point of contact for all of his clients. He wanted to continue to grow the business, and you couldn't do that and be an entrepreneur and still be the principal agent.
So I'm going to take us off of marketing just for 2 seconds because you said something incredibly powerful that I don't know that everybody may have focused on, but your agency grew from what to what in what period of time? Like that is unreal. Give that to me one more time.
Sure. So our agency grew from one location, started in 93. We were a nationwide captive agency, probably around 2000, 1999, 2000. My dad started doing what were called independent agency acquisitions, and Nationwide, that was kind of the first pioneer at Nationwide to do that type of
Sure.
thing. So he along with the folks at Nationwide, kind of developed a process to go in and do the due diligence, find and qualify the agency, and then figure out what it's going to take to actually purchase that agency and then roll it into your company. So it's a lot easier. And I know this is something you do. So it's a lot easier than to say, hey, we're just going to buy this agency. But then you have to actually bring it into your fold. And it was easy with Nationwide, all one system, all one type of policy. So we kind of pioneered that back in the day. And that's where, we got a lot of our growth through acquisition.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And there's a lot of people doing that, not just Nationwide. There's a lot of people that is their
Certainly.
strategy. They have an organic growth and they have a growth by acquisition. I'm just curious. I think you said you have over 40 locations now, if I got that number right.
10 locations, 10
Oh,
locations
10,
and 40
sorry.
employees.
Sorry, I flipped the numbers in my head. That's not good for a financial person, just so you know. But 10 locations. So did all of the agencies' names change to All About Insurance, or did any of them keep their own names?
Over time, many of them did. So we have one agency that most of the agencies have changed over to either All About Insurance in the city they're in. So for example, All About Insurance Chapel Hill, All About Insurance Raleigh. But we have one agency that we purchased. The gentleman's name was Joel Davis. He had such a great following and community presence in the area that we purchased. It made no sense to change the name. So it's just All About Insurance Joel Davis. So those customers, and Joel now works for us. He's our general manager. Through that acquisition, we brought that, principal into our management team and our leadership team, which, that can work really, really well and has worked great for us. And sometimes you just want to do a straight acquisition and you don't want to have any leadership come in, but you just want the staff to come in because they're the ones that have the relationship with the client. But in this instance, yeah, we kept that name there, and it worked really well for us because everybody knows him.
It's so funny. I get asked that question all the time. Like, should we keep the name? Should we not keep the name? Should we keep the location? Should we not keep the location? And the answer is it depends. Like, you have to actually know the book and know the relationships and know what the potential impact will be on retention or perception, even, in order to make that decision. So I love that your answer wasn't, over time we did this and some we did and some we actually didn't because it didn't make sense. So that's a super impressive story. I will tell you, there's 39,000 independent insurance agents in the industry and 83% never break 1.2 million in revenue. And the reason is there's lots of reasons for that. But when you hear a scratch agency going from X to Y in a period of time, and there's some 100-year-old agencies out there that are, maybe 750,000 in revenue is all they end up growing to. Not a bad industry. Like, listen, this industry makes more millionaires than any other industry I probably know. But that's a super interesting story. So hats off to you guys.
So, and I owe it to my dad. So he was one of those agents that was going to, like I said, he's going to be a pioneer, and, he wasn't happy with status quo. He wanted to be, you've heard this before, a points and plaques agent.
Sure.
Awards and rec, that's what mattered to our agency. So if there was something to win or someone to beat, like that's what we were trying to do. And that's the culture we created at our agency. And for better or for worse, it's been really good for us. We've created enemies along the way, I'm sure, or maybe not enemies, frenemies, where we're cordial. We like working with each other, but at the same time, if I beat you or you beat me, I'm ticked off about it for a day or two because, that's just the way the business is.
Yeah.
But that is a culture he created. And then obviously the agency, we've built this machine now where we're doing really, really good numbers. Our revenue is in a place where we're really excited about it and continuing to grow. We did an acquisition with Levitt Group about 3 years ago. And so that was obviously, a challenge just because you're changing from being, an independent agent or a captive agency to becoming independent, and then doing that for a few years and then realizing, hey, there's opportunities to partner with some of these other entities out there, and there's some people have a reason to go private equity. Other people had a reason to go with, a family owned business. We chose family owned because it just made sense to us. I'm 34. I plan to be here for the next 25, 30 years. And so it didn't make any sense for me to become the SVP of sales for,
Right.
one of these other private equity firms. I wanted to still be able to kind of steer the boat in a way that, I could still make sure that we're going where the vision is, and I'm still able to do that. So that's one of the things, for anyone listening that's considering going down that route. You have to weigh your options, and you have to weigh, like, what's it going to look like for my agency when I do decide to sell to one of these private equity firms or to a family owned whatever. What's my staff look like after that? What does my role look like after that? What does my locations or overall agency makeup look like? Because most of the time it's going to change pretty drastically. And you got to be able to be okay with that and kind of swallow that pill, so to speak, because you're going to change a lot of lives. Like, I've got 40 people that work for me, and for me to make a decision where, hey, you can make a bunch of money, but you got to cut 30% of your staff. That doesn't work. The math doesn't math for me when I start doing that, because I'm
Mhm.
compassionate about my people.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're speaking my language, you know that, but I love that I think that there's this idea that there's only one way to transition, or there's only one option, whether we're talking private equity backed, whether we're talking whatever. And you just highlighted perfectly that there are many ways to do this, and one is not like the other. And there's many different structures, which is a completely different topic than what we're talking about today. But I love hearing a 34-year-old say, hey, listen, we did this kind of structure because I have a runway and I know that this actually positions me differently. It is no longer I either own my agency or I sell my agency. There's a million different ways in between that actually helps you grow your agency and create sometimes generational wealth. Like, it's an unbelievable thing. I love that you brought that up, because I think that that's a very understood, and not that I'm not trying to change that, but I think that there's this perception that it's only black and white, and the gray is where so many people win. Anyway, that's actually not the number one reason we brought you on here. Like, you are a master of marketing. You have all kinds of different ideas about marketing. We talked about the name, but I'd love to have Lindsay have you dive into some of the ways that you build your partnership.
Yeah, one of the biggest things I'm interested in is I've seen a couple of times on your LinkedIn. I think we're connected other places potentially, but you really leverage NIL partnerships, which I think is super unique. I'd love if you could share just a little bit about that, how that idea started and what you actually do.
Sure. So I want to say, 2 or 3 years ago, NIL became a thing. And for anyone that doesn't know what I'm talking about, name, image, and likeness is what I'm talking about. But that is essentially college athletes being able to get paid for their name, or for you putting them in marketing and things like that. In the past, that was a no-no, and the NCAA would get really, really upset and ultimately probably dismiss that student, or, something along those lines. So now that they have the ability to make some money off of their name and image and likeness, there's so many opportunities to go out and create marketing campaigns or content. And so for us, we live in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I have within, 30 minutes of me some of the best college athletes in the country,
Mhm.
between Duke, UNC, NC State, Wake Forest. I mean, so there's so many really good ACC schools and just schools here. It just makes sense. So we made the decision, after the NIL kind of became relevant again, that we were going to try and tackle this and see if this was something that we could do. We have a radio partnership with a local radio station. And so the very first foray that we had into it was sponsoring a couple of students, athletes, and they got on and they did a radio ad for our agency. And then they also answered a few questions about, hey, what do you like about Chapel Hill? What are your favorite restaurants? That kind of thing. So it's very, very basic. And from there, I kind of looked at that and said, okay, the ROI and what we did there was small, but there's potential. And it got a lot of engagement and it got a lot of impressions. And so how do I turn that into conversion, right? And so and I can go all the way into the nitty gritty if you want, but there are what are called NIL exchanges. And so at a high level, it's like a portal that you can go into. And if you're a college athlete, you can put your name out on that portal and say, I want to do work for whoever, right? It's like putting your resume on Indeed. It's the same
Yeah.
concept. So
Yep.
all of these large universities have these NIL exchanges. And so you can log into those portals and you can start looking for a college athlete that fits your brand, whether they have a cool, funky name or they have, they're someone that is big, in the community because, they're a star athlete. And so everybody knows the quarterback's name or everybody knows so and so. You find them, you can reach out to them and actually propose your, content or whatever you want to do with them, and then have an
Hmm.
interaction with them. So I did that with a student athlete named Storm Duck, and great name, awesome name.
Great
Probably
name.
one of the more
Yeah.
unique ones in college, in college football. So he's a
Yeah.
student athlete that played for Carolina. We worked with him and his agent for about 4 months. We put together some social media stuff. We actually shot a commercial at my agency with my staff, which was awesome. So my staff
Cool.
got to be involved in that. And we actually used a student-led agency marketing company. So UNC, their journalism school is one of the, best in the country. They have their journalism students also able to go into basically a student run ad agency. And so I worked with them for the last couple of years and they generated the copy, they put together the scripts, and then they also did the shooting and editing for me. So I had students actually
Incredibly
do all
cool.
that for me, which is really cool. And so
Really
I had
cool.
students doing the content, and then I had a student being the feature person in the content, which I thought was pretty neat.
Yeah,
Um,
very.
and it's not hard to do. Like if you are in an area that has a large university or has a local university, more than likely they may not have an ad agency, but they've got a journalism school. Like you can tap into those students in a way, and it's cost effective too, but it's also a really good way for the students to get real world experience working with a company before they ever get out, which is cool too.
Yeah.
So
How did it turn out like driving customers to you though? Do you feel like it was worth it? Would you do it again?
yeah, so it was great for exposure. The first one that we did with Storm, we put it out on YouTube and we also did on Hulu. And on
Cool.
YouTube, it got like 10,000 views in the first week. And I think the Hulu one was a little bit more, I mean, a little less, but it had more engagement. Where I made a mistake and I learned from this was I didn't put any tracking phone number or email. I just said, call our phone number and put our website. And I screwed that up. So on the next one that
Hmm.
we did, I made sure that we did that and actually got real results. But it also drove for us a lot of engagement in our agency where people were saying, "Hey, I saw your ad on, the morning news." And so that was cool too. And so for us, I feel like we learned from the first time we did it, the places we screwed up. We optimized it on the second time with another student athlete, and I think we did a much better job there. And so for return on investment, it was like about $5,000 for what I proposed to the athlete and then for the videos and shoots and everything. And we probably wrote, I don't know, probably a couple hundred policies off of it. So, I mean, that pays
Yeah,
for itself.
totally. Yeah. Do you feel like how did you, and maybe this is a question for the marketing agency, but how did you mesh together the two brands as you were doing that? Is your guys' brand, I know I've seen your personal brand, but I haven't
Mhm.
necessarily dove deep into All About Insurance's brand. How did those mesh together?
So our brand is, especially from a marketing standpoint, it has always been a little out of the box. And that's been a way to differentiate ourselves from some of our competitors and some of the folks in our area. So when my dad was, first started doing TV ads, we had some of the like more funky ones where it actually stick in your head because it had somebody in a banana suit, like, in a ninja suit running around and stuff. So that kind of marketing has always been something that's we've been good at, and so we
Yeah.
lean into that. We lean into humor, we lean into the oddities and things like that because that's what people seem to remember. And so for us, that's meshing the brand of Storm or Cedric was easy because we didn't have like a very regimented, like, okay, you have to follow these brand guidelines because if you don't, it's not going to work. No, our brand guidelines are kind of all over the place. They're
All over the place.
superfluous.
Yeah, out the window.
Yeah. And that works. I mean, like, I still like to have a specific brand cadence, but at the same time, I picked these student athletes specifically because, his name was so unique. Storm's name specifically was so unique. And then the other gentleman that we did, Cedric Gray, he was going to be he's a second round pick or third round pick in the NFL draft. So, I mean, he
Oh,
just had a
wow.
really high profile name. People knew who he was. He was on the Nagurski Award, whatever it is for linebackers. So anyway,
Cool.
that's where kind of aligning with someone who's really good at what they do, super talented. It kind of aligns well with an agency that wants to be the best at the best and things like that. So it worked well for us.
So did you have you parlayed this to also highlighting some of your clients? Like what does this look like? Because if I'm listening to this and I'm an agent that barely has dipped my toe into marketing, it sounds like a super big jump to go from where you are to, not that it's a bad thing, like fantastic and super brilliant, but we all know agents are at all different places in this.
Yeah.
So what else have you done with this kind of strategy in highlighting your own clients? Has that also been part of your success?
So I haven't done anything specifically for my clients other than we obviously do a lot of marketing around our user reviews and things like that.
Okay.
We get a lot of good Google reviews, and so we market around that.
Mm.
We leverage that kind of stuff a lot. But as far as putting them in our ads or anything like that, we haven't gotten that far yet. But you just sparked an idea for me.
I think sometimes with agents, it's hard to think about the way out. It's easier to think about baby steps going out and
Sure.
thinking about how to do that, right? And I'm also thinking, you know, from my perspective, agents that get really, really focused on a niche or something that a carrier that they're with really likes to write are very successful because they can be incredibly efficient. So if you mine your book and say, this is where we're super successful, this is where it's incredibly profitable, we know that this is our ideal client, and then start marketing around that, you attract what you put out there, right? Could be a cool thing.
And so, just to give a little bit of context, so my agency is a personal line shop for the most part. We're about 85-15 personal lines, commercial lines. The bread and butter for us is private passenger auto. So we do a shitload of cars.
Yeah.
So volume is what we're doing. And so that's why for us, having our marketing being very, personal lines focused and being kind of that more hokey kind of, capture their attention and make sure they remember us when they have, their bill come up and they go, "Oh my God, this is so expensive." Wait, I remember I just saw that stupid commercial from All About Insurance. Let me give
Yeah.
them a call. And that's kind of the way that we try to have it work for us. I mean, we do our marketing on social media too, but I'll be honest, I suck at Facebook. I used to be really good at it and I don't do it anymore. And now that everything is like Instagram, TikTok, and all that, you don't want to see me dance. So that's not like a place where are at. So that's why I'm on LinkedIn, and that's why I
Hey,
do a lot
Nick,
of
you
the
never
content that I
know.
do on LinkedIn.
You never know. That might be the thing that gets you all the likes and all the reach. You dancing might be the thing. You never
It,
know.
it, it very well may be. It probably isn't going to happen though.
Well, you are the one who said that the band is the most important part of a wedding. I'm assuming if you have
I
that viewpoint, you probably danced pretty hard that night.
I will dance for a wedding all night long. You won't get me off the dance floor. For social media, I'll be probably too embarrassed to do it, but you never know.
Well, we just need a
I've
camera to
done
follow you
more
around on the wedding.
self-deprecating things on social media than that, so who knows?
You and me both. You and me both.
Very
So
true.
tell me, what about this marketing? Obviously, your growth strategy was to grow by acquisition. How is the marketing strategy that you have helped you
Mhm.
continue that growth by acquisition?
So part of what I put out on LinkedIn and part of the content that I create is, and you may have picked this up, is I am trying to share almost a behind the curtain on how to run an agency and how to run it using technology and how to run it efficiently and effectively, because there's all these
Mhm.
different tools and things that you can use to make your agency run well. I find that a lot of the agencies that I talk to, especially the ones that I talk through acquisition, they're not doing those types of things. They're not texting their customers. They're not, keeping a up-to-date website or anything like that. And You mentioned the 39,000 insurance agents. I think from an independent standpoint, you're right. There's so many people not taking advantage of some of those things, and technology. I mean, insure tech is freaking huge. The industry itself, there's so many different tools out there that you could tack on to your, tech stack. But for us, it was always about trying to make sure that we had the right tech stack and making sure that what we had wasn't going to be too expensive for what it did. And so for agencies that are out there, I would just say, you've got to really look at your agency and figure out what do you need to make your people more efficient, right? And make your team, more efficient, or make your customer experience more efficient, like, or make your leadership experience more efficient. Like, that's why we went on Agency Zoom originally, is because I needed leadership reporting and I wasn't getting it from AMS 360. So like picking your tools, I think, is really, really important to making sure you don't get this hodgepodge, of stuff. And then you're spending a ton of money on stuff that doesn't talk to one another,
Oh, yeah.
and you're putting things in multiple places, and that just doesn't work. So the marketing from that also, your marketing needs to drive all those things. So like Agency Zoom is a great piece of technology, but it's also a marketing driver for us. It does a ton of outreach for us. So having tools that have duplicity and do different things is also really, really important.
Super important. I think knowing what you are, again, that generalist agency, it's really hard to know what you are and actually pick and focus. The fact that we are personal lines, we are high volume, we are, we need to do these things and do them really, really, we need to do them better than the average
Yep.
agency that's 50% commercial lines, 50% personal lines, because as personal lines getting squeezed, you've got to be able to do it super efficiently in order to make it profitable. That's the key. So many times people ask me, well, do you have to be heavy commercial lines in order to be a profitable agency? The answer is no. What you need is to be super focused, where you can design your infrastructure, your team, and everything around it, where you can drive as much efficiency and profitability as you possibly can. But that could be in any structure other than we write anything that comes in the door. Like, that's a really difficult place to get super efficient. It just is, right?
It is, and I'll be honest. So that was always my dad's philosophy. If it walks through my door, I want to sell it. Period. I don't want anyone walking out of my office. And you know what? You shake your head, and I get it. We've made it work. We've made it work profitably. We've made it work efficiently, but it is not easy. And it is very difficult. And I get that for a lot of agencies to say, well, I want to focus on everything. I get it. It's not easy. That's why you have to have people that are good at what you're not good at. And so our staff, that's where they shine, and that's where I have really, really good people. That's why I have 40 people that work for me, because I need to have those different levels of expertise in different fields. But I don't want any piece of business to come into my agency and leave without a policy. And I know that sounds, to someone that's listening, may sound like, dude, you're freaking crazy. You need to pick and choose. You need to have an 80-20 rule. And, you need to worry about your top 20% and forget the other 80. I get that. I have a hard time letting go with that. And at the same time, I've seen that it can work. And so I hear the people that say that, but then I'd say, come into our agency, come see what we're doing, and then tell me that it doesn't work.
Well, the only correction I would make in what you said is not forget about the rest, but manage how you engage with the rest so you can be as
For
efficient
sure.
and profitable as possible. I don't forget any of my clients. And trust me, my clients do not all look the same. But I think you have to have a solid strategy in order to make sure that you can continue to run
Yeah.
profitably and efficiently, right?
Without a
Yeah,
doubt.
I'm gonna
Without, you
I'm gonna
guys still
say
have
we
your
are
eye
in
on
an
those rev
almost
ops.
agreement. Yeah, I would say we're almost in agreement on that, right? Let's go there.
Totally.
Well, Nick, you are amazing. We could talk forever. I mean, honestly, we could just talk. Hey, part of the things when you're talking, I'm thinking, do you want a job, man? Because you could definitely counsel people on how to be successful in M&A and attract people to your talent, to your agency. That's amazing. Yeah.
So I kind of got off topic, and that's not unusual when I talk on these things. That's one of the reasons, and I do my LinkedIn content, is I'm trying to hopefully get someone out there that's going to go, you know what, I'm sick and tired of owning this agency, but this kid seems to know what he's talking about. Let me give him a shot. And I've had a
Mhm.
lot of conversations with folks. I use outbound, marketing to target different agencies. And so there's probably people that are listening to this that they've gotten my emails before. And if you're in North Carolina, you definitely have. And I'm not the one sending that. I just want you to know I have automation that's doing all that for me. But I've come up with a process, and I've honed it because my dad has done the hard work and heavy lifting on this. I by no means think that I did this on my own. I watched someone, forge their way through this for 25 some odd years and do 20 some odd acquisitions. And so part of it is that innate kind of watching someone else do it and being involved with it, and then the other side of it is now taking the reins from him and trying to add my own digital spin to it, knowing that sending out a postcard like this doesn't work anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
have thousands of these postcards still that I'll never send again because now I do everything through cold email and cold call. And it still works. I mean, literally, my cold emails get 95% open rates.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
That's incredibly
crazy.
high.
And it's not a
Well,
joke.
Nick,
I'll show you my Apollo. You can see it.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, we could do an entire separate podcast on just that, like sales tactics that work. Absolutely love how you've taken lessons you've seen your dad, items you've seen your dad do, lessons from your dad, and you've modernized them and turned them into something that work today. If there's an agency listening who wants to connect with you, obviously they can reach you on LinkedIn, but is that your preferred method of how you're reached? How would you want people to reach you if they want to talk to you?
LinkedIn is fine. You can also, if you want to shoot me an email, that's fine too. If you want to link it in the caption or something, totally fine.
Sure.
I'm an open
Okay.
book. I tend to overtalk and overshare, and that's a good thing in this respect. So if you have questions or if something came up and you're like, you know what, I'd love to pick Nick's brain, I'm fine with that. I've talked to a lot of agents who would tell you the complete opposite, but I think it's, part of being, networking is being open and trying to help people, without any, repercussion or expecting anything, right? So
Yeah.
happy
I
to do it.
agree.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Super enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better, knowing a little bit about your story, and hope we do this again. We could do like
Yeah.
5
Happy
more
to.
podcasts, I feel like.
Nick, it was great meeting you.
It was very good to meet you both. Thank you so much for having me.
Mom, you have to end the recording.
I don't do this. You
Normally
do
I'm the one who
this.
does it. I think
Here
Zoom
we go.
saved it.